Hello, hello, how are you? And how do you do? This is WVU football going deep, and I find myself still doing a little housekeeping to clean up some things that I should have had done before I started the video. But if you will bear with me just a moment, we'll get all this done. This is just a little pop-up. We'll get all this done. This is and yeah, I had not planned or advertised this live stream, but I was kind of talking some things over with myself, and much as I enjoy that kind of a conversation, I find myself interesting at times, humorous, who knows. But I decided it might be more fun to come on here and talk it over for whoever might show up now or later. And let's see here. And well, now I had something I wanted to post in there, and it's not posting for me. So I will have to take care of that and be right back with you. Conversation for tonight involves spring camp. There are a number of questions, as there always are. Some, of course, I find to be more interesting than others. Now let me see if I can post this time in the comments. Yay, hey Ra. There we go. Possibly cheating a little bit, but yeah, if anybody there does want to help out the channel, it is appreciated, and I thought I would make it a little easier for you, for all those invisible people that are watching. Meanwhile, back to the conversation I was having. What seem to be some of the more interesting questions or stories coming up for spring camp? And I'm going to start at a little bit different spot, and that's special teams, because that was the one that actually got me thinking more and feeling more like talking, although by the time I went through the whole process to get this set up, I was just about worn out. I figured talking will kind of get things flowing again. It usually does. Have been known to tell stories for 7 hours straight back when I could drink lots of coffee. Hey, Jordan, you appreciate that? Was a time when Jordan and I could have probably put away a whole passel of coffee. Anybody offering free refills might have gone out of business. I couldn't keep up with Dad, but that's a different set of stories. Anyway, thinking about special teams, which led me to thinking about the kickoff team. And for the last several years, people have complained about a number of things. Two of them are mutually exclusive, and that is they claim that Neal Brown does not take chances, and they get mad because he won't just kick it into the end zone every time. And of course, kicking it into the end zone means not taking much of a chance. I consider it pretty much the coward's way out, and it really, to me, I'd rather see him come up with rules that eliminate touchbacks. But the purpose of a kickoff team at this point is to hold the return team inside the 25, where they get it on the touchback. And I think that is a worthy goal. And when the kickoff team was working well, they were holding teams to the 21, 19, 15. And of course, it also opens up the possibility of getting the returner to fumble. So I think what happens with the kickoff team he's going to be a big story. Of course, we're not going to see a lot of different things in spring camp, but it's one of the questions that's coming to mind. Now, unfortunately, one of our best coverage guys on the kickoff team was DJ Oliver, and he is gone. So we will have to find somebody to replace him. And more importantly, we have to find 11 players who can run fast, have a touch of madness, and maintain their lanes. That was what killed the team so much when things went badly. And of course, people were talking about when things went badly and ignoring when things went well. But the difference between giving up 2 touchdown returns in a game and holding the other team inside the 25 is not a big difference. And Coach Brown, after the season, did talk about not having enough of the mid-sized players, linebacker types. And we've got more of those. We've got some healthy. So I think we should have better personnel for the kickoff team. Now, punt team is a similar sort of thing. We did well on that at times, and other times we'd give up a long return. But with a little luck, some of the same players that make us better on kickoff can make us better on punt return, the punting team. Now, as for our return teams, the kickoff return team has not been good for 3 years, something like that. Winston Wright started his final season at WVU very well and then went in the toilet. And I'm not sure how much of that was right, how much of it was the coverage team, but we looked good and haven't been since. We had some moments, but we kept ending up with guys back there who aren't kickoff return guys. We put Preston Fox back there mostly just to call fair catches. Beanie Bishop had a shot but ended up playing so much on defense that he couldn't stay on the special teams until that brilliant punt return in the bowl game that made us wish he'd had more time on special teams. Jaheim White has the speed, he doesn't have the experience, and it is a special set of instincts for kickoff or punt return. So he may still develop that. We do have a lot more speed coming in this year. So I am looking at special teams as an interesting story, and I think they may become one of the big breakthrough moments for the season. We need to, I don't think we're going to have a lot of games that, a lot of games are decided by special teams, even if you don't have either side doing returns for touchdowns. But, we've usually had the edge in special teams, but not any big moments on special teams. And I think this year we will. Now, offense. Hold on. Neal, Zach, do we mention the spelling of Neal? Anyway, I read a little bit about that. Of course, details have not come out. I'm all for it. I see what Neal Brown has been building. I see what he has now established. You've got the people out there who are saying, He hasn't beaten any big teams. You know, last year was a fluke because we didn't play anybody any good, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy that. I think Neal Brown is an excellent coach, and I think we blasted well need to do what we can to make sure he stays here. And if we don't do it now, it is likely to be a lot harder and a lot more expensive to try and do it after this season, because I expect Neal Brown to have a lot of very good teams coming after him, making very good offers after the 2024 season. I like to think that he would not leave WVU except for a very high-level team and a very good offer. I'm pretty sure he likes being at WVU. I think he likes working with Ren Baker, and and I think he likes having built this culture. Anywhere he would go, he would be really starting over on culture. Maybe not as extreme as here, but potentially, I mean, if he had another coach leaving who was the absolute opposite of him, then he could see himself another 3 or 5 year rebuild job. So I hope he will stay. I'd like to see him here for 20 years. 25 if he's up to it. And I think, doing it now, I think it was smart when Lions did it. If Lions had not gotten that extension in place, we wouldn't have Brown now. And now is the time to have him here when he has actually, I won't say finished establishing what he wants, because it's always a fluid situation, but he has the things in place to continue getting the type of players and coaches that he wants. So I hope they can nail down a really good contract, one that pleases as many people as you can. There's always going to be a few that disagree. But yeah, I'd forgotten about that issue. I meant to bring it up in a video fairly soon, but that was before I had the urge to do this live broadcast. I should mention that I am working with some new equipment. The lighting arrangement worked very well in the daytime. It does not work as well at night. I will have to make adjustments in future videos. And I don't know why I've got a little bit of blur around my edges. I know why I have a little bit of blur in my head, but not around my edges. Offense. Well, the worrisome question is center, right guard, right tackle. I've said that multiple times. Other people have said it. I expect a workman-like job at center. I do not expect an outstanding job that gets talked a lot about. I'm afraid if center is talked about much this year, it may be a negative thing. I don't expect Livingston. Livingston might take over. We haven't really seen much of him. Don't know how much he's going to progress between now and fall. But I'm hoping that the center gets consistent PFF grades around the 60 range. With 65 gets you to the above average point. That would be very good. Mostly I don't want any big problems at center. That's all I'm asking at this point. We need to see things step up at left guard, which has been, it's kind of been at that workman level that I'm hoping for at center. But we've had a couple of years to get past that at right guard, and neither Yates nor Hubbard have really been able to do it consistently. Still have to see what ceiling those guys have at their relative spots this year. Our right tackle, again, it could be a problem. It could be a star position. We're not sure. I still Williams may slide over there, or Bosley may take it over. Bosley could slide into guard. I don't know. That's why it's an interesting question for spring, and I expect to see a lot of experimentation. I know offense is more settled than parts of the defense, and scheme-wise, definitely on defense. But I do think we'll see a lot of playing around on the line. And of course, some of that is just because they want guys to be able to play different positions. But I don't think the coaches are really sure who is going to work out. So hopefully it will end up as a positive story, but I definitely think it will be a story. Now, of course, we shouldn't ignore the left side. I'm hoping for a star year from Milam, and an excellent year from Remack. I wouldn't mind a star year from both of them. But of course, you need to be able to go to both sides and not depend on one side of the line being that much better than the other. So we'll have to see where that goes. No big questions about Green. I think he will make the improvements he needs to make. Marchiol is a question mark. I want to see him take that big step up. We'd like to see some games where we are far enough ahead to bring Marchiol in. And, of course, each of the quarterbacks, is going to be, Boyle. We'll see more in the spring game. I'm not sure if Wilkins is or is not on campus at this point. I've seen stories both ways. Never saw confirmation. I guess we'll find out when camp opens. Wide receiver is actually going to be, or receiver in general, is going to be a big story. Gallagher is going to be one of the biggest because everybody expects him to learn the route tree and take a big step up this year, to be able to go out as a receiver a lot more, not just taking handoffs and tosses. But as some people like to point out, we don't know that yet. The naysayers always like to say, well, they haven't proven it yet. Well, no, Gallagher hasn't proven it yet. I expect him to take a significant step in spring, and I think we'll get to see a little of that when they let media in. And then I think he'll take another big step between spring and the start of the season. So Gallagher could be a big, big deal. What they're going to do with Horton is a big question. Don't know if he'll be in the slot or outside or both. He had some injury issues that kept him out a lot last year. Made some nice catches when he was in, did not do necessarily what we hoped. And he may not hang around. If it looks like he's going to be 3 deep, which is a possibility given the quality of receivers we have, he may be one of the guys who goes portaling. And I now have turned portal into a verb, so forgive me. I read enough Shakespeare to pick up the habit. And almost everybody at the receiver position is an interesting story for this year. Expecting big things from Ray, looking for things from Bray, from Farmer, from Raymond, and of course hoping for things from the other guys. But those are some of the more experienced or more developed players. But, I mean, the offense, it's relatively settled, but it's still going to have experiments and stories. Breakouts, breakthroughs, and breakdowns. So we shift over to the defense, where I think almost everything is up in the air. Sean Martin probably, well, I don't know if Mulba or, I should have written down some names. Did not think the memory would fail me, but I'm not sure who's going to start in the middle. Vesterinen has been known as Steady Eddie, who occasionally makes the big play. Will that be enough to keep his starting spot? I want T.J. Jackson in there as much as possible. I think he's going to be a big, big story. A couple of the guys who came in as transfers on the line last year did well, but not necessarily the big things we expected. Now, Jackson is more highly regarded, and we have Fabianic. So I think we can, risk a little bet on that. But you would normally, line seemed to be maybe the most settled, but I think, everybody is going to have to play their best game to get playing time. And that's going to include the stars or would-be stars. The big, big question to me is not defensive back. Surprise, surprise. It's linebacker. That's really where a lot of the problems on defense last year started when we had problems. It may have looked like the safeties, but a lot of that was because the linebackers didn't do their share on coverage. And Cutter and Koba were both prone to taking the wrong lane. Cutter because he's inexperienced. I expect that to get better. But it's going to, what is Trotter going to look like in spring? How soon is he going to be playing his top football? Now, he is expected to be ready for spring camp, but not necessarily, how much will he be playing and how well? Lathan remains a question. I do not know if he is going to be ready to do anything much in camp. And what does Carrico really bring to the team? So we have more questions at linebacker than we have linebacker positions. And how well are any of these guys going to do in coverage? Coverage. That was the issue with linebackers. We need linebackers who are all-around players. Lathan appeared to be. We definitely didn't have the problems against the passing game when Lathan was in there that we had when he was gone. So either getting Lathan back or having Carrico step up, or both ideally, is going to be possibly the most critical thing on defense. Now, of course, we're replacing both corners. So they did well last year. We need guys who do as well. And I think we have guys who are finally going to be capable of man coverage. Been working towards it for since Brown got here, and it has not worked out yet. Brought in a lot of guys, several of whom have man coverage skills. The real thing with the defensive backs, corners and safeties, is going to be who plays where, because I think they're going to move around a lot. Most of them I'm not going to be calling corners or safeties, just defensive backs, because I really think the defense could be flexing into a lot of different approaches, formations. I said that before last year. They didn't manage to do it as much as I think they wanted to. And again, how much, losing Lathan hurt in a lot of ways. They were playing a lot of games with Lathan and Koba that they couldn't play when Cutter came in. So lots of questions. I'm not going to call them uncertainties. Naturally, a question is uncertain or you wouldn't ask it. I think all of them are going to have positive answers. And I think it will be have major impact on all three parts of the game. All right, Shannon, thanks for the comment there. Yeah, the corners were good last year. There's no two ways about it. But they were not really, they weren't man corners. Bishop always had that knack for getting in position for an interception, even if it was being thrown to someone he wasn't covering a couple of times. And he just, man, if he could have held on to a few of those. But Ruffin, the year before, had been a much more aggressive, interception-oriented guy, and I'm not quite sure why that did not show up in 2023. I think he might have gotten a little more attention from scouts if he had been able to play more aggressively. Not sure how much of it was just because of what he was being asked to do. I mean, Ruffin, oh man, ultimate team player, he will do what you ask. So if it made him not as noticeable, he would still do it. So, yeah, I am looking forward to what parts they show us in spring, because I do want to see. Now, of course, actually last spring I really liked a lot of the coverage because it looked like the corners were able to close quickly, and we did not see some of the flaws that showed up, particularly in Wilson Lamp. That was not clear to us, and obviously it wasn't clear to the coaches in spring. I think we will be starting, I think we'll be better this spring than we were in the 2023 season. And I'm not sure that we could say that before. And I think that's the ideal, that spring, you're still experimenting a lot, just more because you want to than because you need to. But being able to pick up where you left off is better than starting over. Well, I've covered special teams, offense, and defense. And Zach asked me about the contract. Don't know. Zach didn't argue with me after that. I'm not sure. I don't know if he's still here or not. Don't know if he liked what I had to say or not. But that's the defensive line. It's going to be a question of what they are asked to do. I think now, and again, this is something I have said for 2 years. I expect the defense to be more aggressive overall. The number of injuries has kept hurting that. They were more aggressive in 23 than in 22, got more turnovers, but I think, especially being able to cover with man, I think we will see 4 and 5 and even 6 rushers more often. Either bring in both bandits or bandit and the spear nickel, the way they did with Floyd. So I think opposing quarterbacks are going to be rushed. They're either going to have to get rid of the ball in a hurry, or they're going to have to get outside the pocket. And of course, then the question will be whether or not they can keep the quarterback in the pocket. But I think the defense, Martin has been good at rushing. He has not been as good at finishing the quarterback. I'm hoping he will take a step up in that. Jackson is known for pressure. So I think he'll be bringing pressure better than Durajaye. And that would be a nice step to take. Mulba was good at collapsing the center, which does open up things for other parts of the line or the linebackers. Lathan was good at getting onto the quarterback in a hurry. So if he is back at full strength, I think we will, be very good. And of course, Ty French should be able to put pressure. I think the front five will be able to bring a lot more pressure this year than last, or more consistently. There were times last year that they did it beautifully. In the bowl game, Redwood had a wonderful sack, and I think we will see him. I mean, Redwood could be a starter this year. He will at least be playing probably 20 snaps a game, maybe 25 or 30, which is a step up for him from last year. Of course, he was injured, and he got healthy ahead of schedule, but he still should be in better shape this year. And Hammond Russell will be more experienced and another year in the program, so I expect him, I don't know that they'll move Redwood to the center, but Russell and Mulba are going to be really competing for the starting spot there. So, short answer to your question, I think the defensive line is going to do an excellent job of opening up opportunities for the linebackers. I think the linebackers are going to be able to take advantage of it. And I think that will result in sacks, incompletions, and interceptions. Hopefully a few fumbles as well. Linebackers next year, Jack, I'm not sure if you mean what I think of them or who I think will start. Because let's see, we've got Trotter, Cutter, Carrico, and Lathan, who will be the main competitors. I think that will be the two deep. I don't know what is going to happen with Austin Cave. I can easily see him transferring unless last year it was just an injury issue, and then I don't know what happened at the end of the season, but he may, I don't know that he could make the two deep with the guys we have. But really, at this point, as far as who's going to be the starters, it's a toss-up. And I think we could easily see a lot more substitution at linebacker. We didn't really have, Beiser and Favres came in some, and Favres got hurt, and I don't know how he's recovering. I don't know if he will remain at linebacker or if he'll remain at WVU. He could become a very interesting story. I could easily see him being a bandit or a variation of the spear. But he was just getting comfortable at linebacker, and it would be a shame to move him, but it may be necessary. But yeah, Trotter, I mean, Trotter and Lathan are sort of the favorites, I think, because Trotter does at least have a year in the program, even though he was injured all last year. Lathan, we saw what he can do. It's a question of how strongly he comes back from his injury. Cutter is very, very good and should be less prone to mistakes this year. And I don't know why he had issues on coverage. I don't know if it's a mental thing, which I tend to consider least likely. He seems to be football savvy. Or was it just lack of experience, which seems most likely? And was it maybe a bit of bad influence from Koba? I loved watching Koba. He was a great player. I'm glad we had him. But in terms of coverage, he was, I don't know, I think maybe unwilling is the right term. I don't know why he either couldn't or didn't cover well. But barring injury, linebackers should just be probably the best we've had in 15 years, something like that. I don't, maybe longer. I mean, under Castillo, we had some guys who played really well at linebacker, but they weren't what you would call true linebackers because of the 3-3-5 design. So in terms of being complete players and somewhat traditional linebackers, these could be the best since Nealon was coach. You know? Man, that's saying something. Yeah, it's. I think Fabianich was talking about Martin. Well, first, Martin has had injury problems that didn't get talked about a lot. Was not practicing that much. Fabianich specified he'll be able to practice another day. The fact that was worth saying is startling to me. So if Martin can get healthy, stay healthy, and there were some strength areas, I don't remember if it was mid-body, lower body, or what, that Fabianich, and some of the other coaches have mentioned he still needs to improve. But yeah, he's got the body. So we'll have to see how that goes. He will be a South Carolina, Texas Tech, SMU, or Auburn. I don't quite know what you mean by that, Linda. He'll be up in that category or what? Yeah. Hey, I don't blame him for betting on himself. I think it's a good bet. Well, thing is, a lot of fans at pretty much every school, if not every school, are so-called fans. Problem is that psychology that tends to make them negative also tends to make them vocal. What was the quote from William Butler Yeats' poem, The Second Coming? The worst are full of passionate intensity, while the best are, can't remember it. But basically, yeah, even, in this was pre-World War II, maybe one, I forget which. But the problem was that, the people who were talking the loudest and the most were not the best. And the best have this tendency to just kind of let things ride and get on with business. And sometimes they do need to make a point of being more vocal. I think, Shannon, that is a very good way to describe it. Immersed in the team. And he also, I think, that's the thing with culture, is it is an immersion experience. It's not just the team, it's not just practice. It is daily life. You are part of a village, a tribe, however you want to describe it. It is a way of life. He's bringing in players who don't just play a certain way, but think and live a certain way. So yeah, it does create the immersion, and then of course spending more time with the players at the coaches' houses, and even the the various programs they have for developing knowledge and skills outside of football. It brings the team closer together. It is a complete experience. I hadn't thought immersion is a great term, and I'm probably going to steal that and use it frequently for a lot of other videos and such. Yeah, I mean, it's already swinging to whatever it takes to keep him for some people. Me, well, actually, no, I can't say it's been swinging to that, because I've felt that way pretty much since he was shortly after he was announced as the hire, when I understood just how much he was like Bill Stewart. Now, the one thing, he's fully immersed in the team, and he would say, I think, that he would happily immerse himself in the team if it means avoiding being immersed in Mayo. Of course, that means winning enough to get a higher bowl game. And he would, I'm sure he'll let them dump Mayo on him again if they win, that bowl. He'll let them do it every time. And he has said more and more how much he hates mayonnaise. Hey, I'd be there with a cheeseburger, forgive me, in my hands, with lettuce and onion, and saying, "Mayo, please," and my mouth would be open, waterboard me with mayo, please. But I have been called weird before I said anything to that effect. Well, I'll admit you've got me there. I am not up on Kipling that well. I may have to go do some research. Naughty of you, making me actually think. That's my job. I'm not supposed to have to think. I'm just supposed to make you think. Oh no, you've turned the tables. Well, does anybody have other questions, other thoughts about spring camp, about Neal Brown and contract issues, specific players, positions, anything that you really want to talk about? We got 8 people in here, and we don't have that many people who have commented as yet, so some of you are lurking. We need to bring the lurkers into the light. Okay, all for wins, yeah. I suppose there are limits. I know there are limits on what I'll do to win, but mayonnaise does not come under those limitations. I am a fan. Okay, well, unless we get some more questions here, and I do appreciate those people who have dropped comments. And of course, please, if you have not subscribed, I would ask you to do so. And once the video is up on YouTube, it will be easier for you to click the thumbs up button. You can make more comments there, even if you've commented here during the live video, and if you have not. Yes, Donaldson, that is a story for spring. I assume that Jaheim White is going to take off this year. It's just a question of how much. Donaldson is the mystery. Last year, he had the ongoing ankle issues, ongoing shoulder issues, and the psychological problems that those kind of injuries bring. With both of those, you are worried to some degree about what's going to happen at any moment. So, assuming he's fully recovered, and don't know just when he will be fully recovered, it will be interesting to see. For one thing, teams are going to know from the beginning of the year that they can't stack the box. Last year, they tried it. The passing game wasn't quite ready, especially with injury to Green. So it took a while to convince teams. The team, West Virginia was winning, even, not getting long runs, but getting enough. That's how, grind it out, grind and grit. But teams looking at film from last year are going to say, uh-oh, we have to defend against the pass. And I am curious how teams are going to try, and I think they will take a cue from Oklahoma and try to confuse Green. That may be the biggest question, is how much of a step does he take in reads? I think that Oklahoma game will be a great experience for him if he's able to build on that. But anybody at the running back position that we have has a good chance of doing well. So, yeah, I think Donaldson could finally break off some of those runs we saw his freshman year. 3,000-yard rushers. Now, I didn't go that far in the video for positive predictions. I had, I think, White at 1,300, Donaldson over 1,000, and Green over 800. But it's just going to depend on how it all plays out, because the team will have the choice of running or passing in most games. And if a defense tries to stop one, they'll go to the other. So, in part, it's going to depend on what Brown and Scott want to do and what teams try to prevent. If we force teams to concentrate on the passing game, we could easily have 3,000-yard rushers. Or it could end up with one guy having 2,000 yards and the other two, not having as many opportunities. But it's nice to be contemplating those possibilities and to consider them possibilities, not just wishful thinking or pipe dream kind of things. Okay, yeah, it took me a minute to mentally translate that. Yes, but I also think it could go another way, that, they're going to have the ability to score quickly. So they may not dominate time of possession the way they did. They won't have to. I think they'll still go for controlling the ball. I think they will want at least 50% run. I don't think they'll want more than 60, probably around 55%, maybe 60%. But of course, more of them will be, Green's going to complete more of his short passes. So we're not necessarily going to see just the long and touchdown passes. But White is going to be able to break off touchdown runs from anywhere on the field. We kept waiting all last year for that big touchdown run, and he had lots of big runs that didn't quite get there. So be rooting for that very early on. Donaldson, of course, has the ability to take it to the house from anywhere on the field. And with the passing game, the same thing. Clement, Ray, Horton, Farmer, all of these guys, Gallagher, going to be able to take it to the house. And if Green does improve his deep ball, and Fabianich says that there is still room for improvement there, we could send, by improving the completions on the intermediate and short passes, that's going to open up the deep ball more. If the line holds up, man, there's going to be so many choices. Every aspect of the offense has the potential to go big. Linda, do you happen to know what he averaged? Okay, still average about 16 yards completion. I know, I think sophomore year in high school, he averaged 17 per completion. Yeah, I mean, I think there will be some more of the 5-yard completions, swing pass completions, but we got guys that can take those and turn them into 16, 20, 30-yard completions. So I look for possibly even a bigger yards per completion rate. Yeah. Of course, middle. That is going to depend on the center. The running game was not as good in the bowl game, and how much of that was because of Yates at center, we don't know. And how much better? I mean, it was, Yates got to play a good bit of center, but it's still new for him, so he should improve. And I don't think he needs much improvement to open things up. I don't think we'll need to go up the middle as much as we have in the last few years. I think the outside zone blocking is going to be better, and I think we have running backs who can handle it better. Letty Brown was not an outside back. That's, he was a strong back. He was a hard-working back, but he was not an outside runner nor a receiver. That's just, he might be able to develop those still, but he could not do it in college. QB scramble and broken plays. Some design. I don't think, they'll throw in a design QB run when they need it. And Green, I'm sure, will still have the okay to tuck it when he sees Green. If that field opens up, if Ray is wide open 30 yards downfield, you throw it. But if you have, open space between here and there yourself, Green will go for it, whether it is a completely broken play or just an option. And of course, tight end, that's another one that I did not bring up this time around because we are still waiting for somebody to step up as the number 2 tight end. It is great having Cole Taylor, but we need 2 Cole Taylors. And we need Cole Taylor to improve his blocking, which he knows and he's working on. I don't know about that. Maybe we will find out. Of course, the good news was that we did not have any bad snaps, I recall, in the bowl game. And so, if the center can get the ball to the quarterback quickly and accurately and just hold his position, That's the main thing. Yeah, you do need to get, some push on blocking, but if we have a center who does not give up a lot of pressures, that, or doesn't start making bad snaps, that will be good enough. And then I imagine next year Altuner will move into that spot, but we will see. Yeah, and of course I certainly hope we are set at left tackle, although if Milam does go out, we should be covered. I didn't mention Malone as one of the prospects at right tackle. I do not think he will be the starter. I think he will end up much the same he did last year as the frequent replacement. Not even sure if he'll move around as much, because I think we will have more capable, ready backups at the different positions. We will have to see. Well, it is getting on to close to 9 o'clock your time, close to 8 o'clock here in southwestern Indiana, where I am stuck. So I am going to go ahead and thank everybody and sign off, because I do have some more things I need to do. I did not mention it, but do let me know how well the visuals are working for you. Like I say, the lighting was fine for daytime, and has got to highlight, light that other side if I'm doing work this time of day, night. But it is better than it was. Hey, I can see my eyes without so much glare in the screen. So, thanks to everybody. Good night to everybody. And I will see you another time.